Anyone know what that is? That's music to my ears. That's another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling shirts or sandals, start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build relationships that will keep them coming back. Shopify covers all the sales channels to successfully grow your business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is here to help you succeed every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify. And you can do it too. I love how Shopify makes it simple for anyone to sell their products anywhere. Whether they're ebooks or earrings, Shopify simplifies starting and running your own successful business. When you're ready to take your idea to the world, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Now it's your turn to try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. So sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/C-Suite, all lowercase on C-Suite. Go to shopify.com/C-Suite, all lowercase on C-Suite to start selling online today. Shopify.com/C-Suite.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Authentic Achievements, where I'm delighted to be joined by Amanda Scott. Amanda is the Global Mergers and Acquisitions Leader at Willis Towers Watson, based in London. She leads a global team that help clients evaluate and address the critical people-related issues, assets, liabilities, risks and opportunities surrounding corporate transactions. She inspires people to think differently about the future as they implement large-scale organizational change to drive innovation, diversity, and positive growth. She's also the CEO and founder of Mike's Mates, a mental health charity in the UK. And additionally, Amanda is board member for Global Women for Wellbeing, Pensions Management Institute, and the Viviana Durant Ballet Company. And also is one of life's loveliest people. I've had the pleasure of talking with you before, and I'm so excited to have you on the show sharing your amazing journey with our guests. So thank you for coming along.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have our conversation today.
Oh, me too. And I love that there's such variety in what you do, and the whole piece with Mike's Mates and the ballet. I love ballet. Not very good. But it really kind of takes me back to my childhood, and my little girl is currently learning ballet as well, age 5, and thinks that she is the next Darcy Bustle, I think. It's just lovely to see, isn't it? So, Amanda, can you tell us a bit about your journey so far, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So a main thread, I guess, through my journey has been all around helping people. I have a global mindset. I'm quite adventurous, but I'm also very, very curious. So throughout my life, I've done all kinds of wild and wonderful things. So I studied with a shaman in the Amazon. I visited the Darwin Laboratory in the Galapagos. I studied international finance in India and the magnesium industry in Nanjing, China. So I've really embraced the world and all of the opportunities that it creates. Something else I'd say as well throughout my journey is that I'm really empathetic and want to have a really wide positive impact. And you talked a little bit about Mike's Mates, and that's a huge purpose for me, which is, so in 2015, we lost our best friend, Mike, to suicide. And so we realized that through that experience, it's really challenging to find help when you need help. So what we've done is very simple. We've created a website of various options that people can go to get support. So try to take something hard and turn it into action and create a solution. And I guess that's probably maybe the third underlying piece of all of this is that I love when people have problems that they need to solve, or they're looking for solutions in action, because I love organizations that are in transformation or really need help. So I love creating order from chaos and turning strategy into action and results. So that's just a little bit about me and my journey so far.
I love that. What amazing experiences, traveling the world and really embracing, as you say, what life's got to offer. And then also that taking that passion, that curiosity, and that desire to leave things better than you found them, and do that even in the most tragic of circumstances, to look for, can there be a positive to come out of the pain, and can you make sure nobody else is left in that space, is just amazing. And I guess that's driven a lot of your life lessons. But what would you say is the thing that you're proudest of right now?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that I'm quite proud of. I think the first is always going to be my children. So you mentioned your daughter earlier. I have a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my 7-year-old at his school won his kindness award. And at the same time, I had won a kindness award in leadership. So for me, it was just an amazing opportunity that we were sharing the same values and appreciating the same values. So I think that for me was a huge success and meant a lot to me. I think the other thing that I reflect a lot on is I did have my daughter while in lockdown during the pandemic. So that was quite a challenge. And I think that from that, I learned a lot about happiness. And I learned a lot from the pandemic about happiness, because so much of my life up until that moment in my career was really striving for happiness, the next opportunity, the next promotion, the next role, the next win, the next degree. And then in that moment, I realized that sometimes to be happy, you just need to stop and let yourself be happy. And when the world kind of ground to a halt, it was in that moment that it really resonated, that actually it's not about continually doing, but actually being.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. I love the whole piece around kindness. That's what me and my little girl, we always talk about what are we grateful for, and it's always about kindness. It's always about how can we be kind of things. But I love also that you took that moment of pause to realize that happiness comes from within, not without. And yet we do, don't we? We chase for it. We will be happy when this happens. We'll be happy when that happens. And we kind of never take that moment to step back and go, oh, actually, we're happy now. We're happy. What does it mean to say we don't want other things as well? But actually, we don't need them anymore. They're not the thing that is going to give us the happiness, because that really comes from in here, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. So what would you say has been the greatest lesson that you've learned? I imagine there's loads, because such a variety of experiences that you've had.
So I think my favorite piece of advice I've ever received is, what makes you odd will make you great. So maybe I'll explain that a little bit. But when I started my career, I started as an analyst in the retirement business. So doing benefit calculations and taking actuarial exams. And I absolutely loved it. I loved working in Excel. I loved the data. I loved the people I was working with. And I really just kept trying hard to be really successful at it. And every performance review meeting, I'd go into my supervisor's office and sit down with her and kind of brace myself for the feedback, because I knew I was trying really hard, but I also knew there was a lot to learn. And I'd continually pick at the negative feedback or the areas that I needed to focus on and grow and build plans around it and work harder at it. And one performance management meeting, we sat down and she said, so I've just given you a lot of really good feedback, and you're focusing so much on this negative and where you need to learn and grow that I want you to take a pause. I want you to stop focusing so much on the negative, but realize that, yes, you can learn from that, but focus on the positives as well, because that's what will make you great. And when we went back and looked at the performance feedback that I had gotten up until that point, it was about relationship management and client focus and strategic thinking and driving action across a team. And so it really kind of made me pause and think about the fact that, yes, I can continually get better and I can continue to elevate my technical abilities. But at the same time, I can't lose the core of who I am and what I really like doing and am naturally drawn to. So it was in that kind of conversation that I realized I needed to focus on clients. And I got my MBA to strengthen my ability for strategic thinking, and just started to embrace my passion and honesty and emotional intelligence, as well as the technical capabilities.
Oh, I love that. And what great advice, because I think we strive, don't we, to be perfect, whatever perfect is, because none of us are going to be perfect. And actually, and you always say to people, it's your imperfection that is your perfection. Whatever it is that is you said it so eloquently. It's embracing the bit that makes you odd, isn't it? That your weirdness is actually your superpower. It's the thing that you bring. It allows us to see things from a different point of view. And I think sometimes we can be so driven by wanting to get it right. And it sounds like we're very similar. I had a boss who once said to me, it's a very similar place actually. It was in a review, and I'd done similar. It didn't matter what good feedback I got, the one little bit of negative, and I was all over it. It was mine. And I remember saying to me, Kim, I've never met anybody who beats themselves up so often and so harshly. And if it weren't for the fact it was so tragic, it would be a key skill. I was like, wow, that's feedback. But I didn't realise it at the time. But now looking back, I could only ever take the negatives, because they were the thing that I thought were holding me back from the happiness. To your earlier point, it's like, well, if I just perfect those, if I just perfect this piece, if I just make everybody like me, which again is another impossibility, isn't it? Because not everyone is going to like you. As long as you're being kind and you're trying to be with them, that's kind of the most that you can put into that situation, isn't it? But I love that that's where you got your discovery of your joy for clients, for solving problems, for the people elements, because that is so clearly your gift in life. And I know that you also have a gift for poetry, and I wondered if I could call upon you to share one of them with us, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was reflecting on a coworker that had a particular impact on me. And she's someone I would hold up as one of our best leaders within the organization. And I wrote this in her memory. So let me read it to you. Can leadership be female and be feminine? When I started my career, I asked for advice on how to grow into leadership. The reply: tie your hair back, wear trousers, less blonde. And I've had a lot of coaching, deepen my voice, less smiling, stronger body language, be more masculine. And every female leader will likely have at least one instance where they received feedback on their look or advice to pull back on femininity to advance. Yet she role modeled a different type of leadership. Leadership can be female and it can be feminine. It can be graceful and beautiful. It can be thoughtful and persuasive. It can be high fashion and pedicures. It can be laughter and empathy. It can be global with coordinating luggage. It can be whatever you want it to be. There's no one way to be a leader.
Oh, I love that. I love that. What a beautiful tribute as well to the lady who inspired it. Does she know that you've written that about her?
No, she doesn't. She had passed away at the time,
Oh.
but wanted to share this message with her family and our coworkers.
Amazing. What a beautiful, beautiful tribute. And just also demonstrates the impact leaders can have on us, because they stay with us much longer, don't they, than just the time that we're with them. They're particularly the really good ones, because they leave an imprint on how we want to lead, how we want to make our people feel. And I think that's just the one. I love the poem because it's so so resonates. We do, don't we? We do all get given the advice on, have more gravitas, change your vocabulary, dress differently, try and be more like X, Y, and Z. And I think once you get the confidence to just be you, I think that for me is possibly the greatest lesson I got in leadership, was it's okay to be you. And you don't have to be somebody else. And yes, you will do it differently, but that's okay. What's important, I think, and you articulated it so well. What's important is the impact that you have, not on how you turn up, not on how you show up, not whether or not you're too blonde or you've got a dress on or a pedicure. It's about kind of, are you being empathetic? Are you being kind? Are you being curious? And I think for me, that's kind of that's the real superpower of life, isn't it? Is if you can remain curious about things, if you can, instead of thinking, I know the answer, go, okay, I've never thought of it like that. Go on, tell me more. Let me understand a little bit more. What would you say has been your biggest leadership learning so far?
I think for me, the hardest thing has been being an introvert in leadership, because a lot of leaders and role models are extroverted, or at least appear to be extroverted. So I think the hardest part for me has been learning how to embrace my quiet and finding other ways to have an impact. So using words, for example, and recognizing that it's okay to spend time with my words and have prepared more than possibly someone else who could just float up on stage and eloquently speak. So I think that's been a big learning. I think the other side of that as well is that it's important to talk about that and let people know that you are naturally an introvert, because it's not just an extroverted world. People that think that spend time really contemplating or really understanding a situation before making a decision can still make quick decisions and still have really impressive financial results and drive a team to a success. It's just a different way of doing it. So I think that recognizing that, again, people do have just different styles and different ways, and letting people be themselves is really important. So I recently was doing a career speech within my organization, and someone asked, well, can you be a leader and be an introvert? And you can do. You just need to think about how you make space so that you can recover from being in a role that's perhaps more extroverted or more in the light. So for example, I'll have my days where I do just need to spend time working on our strategy or thinking through Excel and going through our financials. And that's okay. That's a key part of the role too. It's not just talking and being out there.
I love that. It's such great advice around being kind to yourself and recognizing what you need to be at your best. So, if you had to go and be a bit more extroverted in a particular activity, finding some time to recoup and rejuvenate and go inward, I imagine, to kind of create that balance. And I think you're right. I don't think it matters if we're introverted or extroverted. I happen to be a Myers-Briggs practitioner, and actually one of the exercises we used to do was get teams to split up to introverts and extroverts and look at a picture of a Christmas tree. And it was hilarious, because the extroverts, when you got them to describe what was happening, they'd say there was a tree in there, but they'd be talking about the fact that there was snow outside and there was carol singers and there was the fire. Nothing at all really about the tree. Whereas when you spoke to the introverted group, they could tell you all about it, how many decorations were on it. But when you put them together, you got the most compelling story. You got the whole picture. And we used to do that just to get people to realize that neither one on their own was right. It was when they came together, it was the value of all of the parts that actually allowed the team to really thrive and survive. And I think that's kind of what you've demonstrated in being able to use your introvertedness to actually really be planned, to be thoughtful, to have really considered things from a different point of view. And I imagine in your role around transformation, that is a crucial skill, because there's so many moving parts, aren't there, in the kind of work that you do?
Absolutely. And I think that it's helpful to be able to reflect and pull all of these pieces together all at once. And there's something that I heard about recently that I really, really enjoyed the concept of, which is mosaic role modeling, where you're taking pieces of role models and putting them together in a way that makes sense for you. And I think so often we're so focused on finding like the perfect role model. And it's hard because you shouldn't ever try to role model or model yourself after anyone else, because you are uniquely you. So I think the concept just really seems to work for me. So I really like how this person negotiates. Let me learn how they negotiate. I love how this person really can see the financial drivers in a spreadsheet. Let's figure out how they're doing that and learn from them on that. I really like how this person presents in a pitch or a presentation, and thinking about what's making them successful that's resonating with you. And just taking the pieces of what the strengths are that you want to learn and the skills are that you want to learn, and putting that together in a really unique way for yourself.
Oh, how amazing. I've never heard of that, but what a great concept. Because you're right, we can sometimes try and role model a person, but actually it's more their different skills or the way they interact or the way that their thought processes worked in a particular way, that you kind of like go, how did they do that? Why did I learn how to do those elements? But actually, I that whole concept of creating that kind of mosaic, that collage of all of the great people, because you can see then how you could really become the best version of you, because you're taking the bits that resonate with who you are as well. And I love that throughout kind of your story, that piece comes through so clearly, that actually you've found a way of making sure that you're inwardly comfortable with how you are outwardly being, so that it remains true to you, it remains authentically who you are. Would that be fair?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it particularly comes to a sharp edge when I'm presenting on stage. So being an introvert, also slightly terrified of public speaking, I found that I was originally terrified because I was doing it in a way that wasn't authentic. I was trying on different styles and different approaches, and I'd watch people who are amazing at this and try to mirror some of the things that they were doing. And what I realized is that the reason I was getting so anxious or upset or just worried about these presentations was because it wasn't who I was. And I wasn't doing it in a way that felt natural or felt comfortable to me. And I'll still admit that it does still terrify me sometimes to get up on a big stage. But I know that I'm going to do it in my way, and that's okay. And that's actually welcome. And people like seeing people who are a little bit different or a little bit unusual in the way that they present. So, I think, again, it's kind of finding your niche and finding how you do things. And being authentic makes you more comfortable.
I love that. It's so true, isn't it? Because actually we sometimes assume that everybody else is finding things easier than we are. And yet actually likelihood is they're feeling similar to us if we just asked the question. I remember once standing up doing this big speech, and as I stood up, every fibre of my body wanted to run away. And actually I shared it with the audience. I said, right about now, every fibre of my body is telling me to run away as fast as I can. And I can't for two reasons. One, I don't think I can run in these shoes. And two, I'd never come back from it, because you've got my name and my picture plastered all over the brochure. So you're going to know I ran away. But what I can do is give myself permission to share with you that that's how I feel. And in doing so, hope that I can shut the little voice up and get on with what I'm here to actually tell you. And I was like, well, what would be the worst that could happen? They could all have got up and gone, well, if she doesn't even think she can stand here and talk, why are we giving her any time? Fortunately, nobody did that. But the amount of people that came up afterwards and were like, we assumed that you love it up there, bright red dress, bright red lipstick. And I was like, no, these are my outer weapons to keep me safe. It's like they're my safety shield. As if I look confident, you might think I'm confident, and then we can move it through. But actually learning to be authentically who you are. And that's kind of the whole premise of the show, is to say that, being you is the bit that's vital, whatever that you is, however that shows up, because we've all got a gift to share, haven't we? And it's getting comfortable with how best do you share that, that feels right for you, and that allows you to go, well, I'm comfortable with this. Actually, I know my stuff. I know that I can add value to people, and I'm going to do it in a way that's true to me, because that's all I can really be in the world, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that we're seeing more and more employees making that decision right now. So as they're looking at other organizations, they're looking for the culture to be themselves. They're looking for really strong diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I have to say, I'm quite lucky to work in the organization that I do, because I do feel that we enable people to be their best. And we embrace the oddities, we embrace the diversity, we embrace everyone's quirkiness to be themselves. So I think that's a lot of what we're seeing right now in the environment. It's just people wanting to change to be who they are.
I agree, because I think the pandemic caused us all to pause, didn't it, and reflect and say, if we're not liking where we are, we need to make that change. And what we're seeing, I don't know if this resonates with where you are, is seeing people being a lot more purpose driven. So trying to find things that align to their values, to their purpose, to making an impact, making a difference. And if what they're doing isn't doing that, we're seeing people make different choices, aren't we?
Absolutely. And I think even bigger than that, we're seeing organizations doing that as well. So organizations are really focusing on their purpose. They're thinking about what their core business is. How do they play to their strengths? How do they align to their ESG goals? And how do they get their people aligned to their ESG goals? So I do think that we're seeing a massive transformation, not just at the individual and people level, but organizational level as well.
Which is amazing to see, isn't it? Because it's been needed for a while. But I think what is that actually people are now embracing that and making it part of their active narrative. It no longer feels like it's a tick box that got stuck at the end of the board notes, because we know we've got to mention it. Really, it now really feels like people are looking at it and making it the critical part of their strategic thinking of what they need to do next, of how they evolve, of how that translates into their culture, into what it's like to be there, both as a colleague and also for their client. What is it who is it that they're serving, and what is it that they need? And I imagine with the kind of work that you do, you see a lot of that transformation coming through, do you?
Absolutely. And it is remarkable helping organizations make it happen. And it's fun helping to inform the vision of where they're going, but then implementing it is really, really interesting. And helping organizations really think about the human side of this and how it's going to impact their people and what they need to do along the journey when it comes to change management and communications and elevating the employee voice and listening to their employees, and just ultimately creating this amazing employee experience.
It's so true, isn't it? Because actually, if we create the right experience for our employees, they can create the right experience for our clients, because it's back to modeling, isn't it? If we modeled giving them a great experience, then hopefully they'll want to emulate that out to the people that they do. But very often, sadly, we hadn't given that much thought. Actually, it was like, well, they'll be fine. They'll get a paycheck. They'll come with us on the journey. But change is hard and it's uncomfortable sometimes. So giving that real thought to how you're going to hold somebody's hands as they go through that change is a crucial skill. And I know one that you do so eloquently.
Thank you.
chat to you literally all day, but I'm conscious also of your time. Can I ask you one final question? If you could go back and give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Well, so actually I have a poem, if that's okay.
Absolutely, I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. So I used to think that the most valuable impact someone could have on your career is to help you up the ladder. And I was wrong. Some also show you that the ladder isn't up, but sideways and squiggly. Some show you that up can also be down. Some support and encourage the climb. Some carry you on their shoulders until you find your footing again. Some teach you that the up is subjective and intrinsic. Some role model and show you a different kind of up. Some mentor and sponsor your up. Some show you that there's value in stillness as well as movement. Some show you that it's not about the ladder at all. And some remind you that laughter and enjoying the journey is just as important. And while a few do pull the ladder up behind them, luckily that's the few rather than the sum. And reflecting on those that have had the most life-changing impact on me, it's often been those that have shown me rungs on the ladder that I didn't even know existed.
Amazing. I love that. As you were saying it, I was running through in my own mind the people that I put into each of those categories. Oh yeah, I was totally like, you could like map the leaders in my life as well to those areas. And you're right. Fortunately, it is only the few that take the ladder with them. And we're seeing so many more now that are reaching back down and helping people. And I loved the whole showing you the rungs that you didn't even know existed. That totally resonated, because we sometimes miss that, don't we? We don't know what we don't know. And having leaders who are willing to share with us the things that we can't see to help us to get there are the ones that probably have the most lasting impact on us. Amanda, it has been an absolute privilege and a joy to chat with you again. Thank you so very much for coming on and sharing your insight with me and with our audience. We really appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me today.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.